Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Teacher Samuel and today we have a money word problem. Now, this kind of problem is very common in the NMOS exam. So without further ado, let's take a look at our question. Malik purchased a total of 12 fruits consisting of both apples and oranges for $14.70. One apple cost 3 cents more than one orange, and Malik bought more apples than oranges. How much in cents did Malik pay for the apples alone? Note, the smallest denomination is 1 cent. There are no fractions of cents. Now, what would your first step be when solving this question? Well, we have information about two fruits, apples and oranges. And what information do we have about these fruits? We know the difference of one of the fruits. One apple costs 3 cents more than one orange. And what's more, what do we know? We know the total price and the total quantity. So what might we do to summarize all this information in an easy to see way? We can draw a model. Now, between apples and oranges, which fruit do you think we should draw first? If you said orange, then I agree with you. And why did you say orange? Because orange is the smaller price and quantity. So it would be easier to start our model drawing with the oranges. So what would the model for oranges look like? Well, we don't yet know the price or the quantity. So what we can do is we can draw a certain number of boxes first to represent the oranges. The length of each box represents the price, and the number of the boxes will represent the quantity. Now, with that being said, how do we now draw the model for apples? We can extend the length of each box since the apples are more expensive than the oranges. And what about the number of boxes? We would have to increase the number of boxes. So the model for apples can look something like this. More boxes than the model for oranges, and each box is longer by a value of 3 cents. Now that we have this model, what would be our next step? Why? We are trying to find the price for apples. So, how can we write the price of apples? Well, let's think. How do we write or how do we calculate the price of any fruit? We take the total price divided by the total quantity. So, for the price of apples, how would we write the total price divided by the total quantity? Well, based on this model, we can see that all the boxes added together is $14.70. And if we want to find the price of apples, what would we need to add to this price? That's right, we would need to add to this price 3 cents times the number of oranges. Since the apple, each one is more expensive by 3 cents. And what will we divide this by? We would divide it by 12, the number of fruits. And so we can write the price of apples as $14.70 plus 3 cents times number of oranges divided by 12. Now that we have this equation, how do we find our answer? Well, let's take a look at our variable here, number of oranges. How many possible number of oranges are there? Well, since we know that oranges has to be less than apples, we would need 5 oranges at most. And 4, 3, 2, 1. So the number of oranges could be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And how do we solve now? Well, we can plug each of these numbers in and see if the price of apples yields with to the smallest denomination 1 cent. Because that's what the question says. But wait, there's an even faster way we can do this. How do we do it? Well, let's take a look. We'll erase the board over here and move the essential information to the top. So, we have already determined that this is the equation for the price of apples. Now, instead of determining directly the price of apples, what else can we do? We can estimate the number, or rather the price of apples. And how do we do that? Well, first we can assume that apples and oranges are the same price. And so, what would the price of one fruit be? That's right, $14.70 divided by 12, which would get us 1.225. Now, let me ask a very, very important question. What is the relationship between this number, 1.225, and the actual price of the apple? That's right, it is lower than the actual price of apples. So what do we do now? We round this up to the nearest cent, 1.23, and we test if this price is possible. So let's see if it is possible. What do we do now? That's right. We take this price multiplied by the quantity of 12 to get 14.76. Now, what do we do next? Well, we need to find the quantity for oranges and apples in order to determine the price of each apple and therefore the total price of apples that Malik paid for. So, what do we do with this number? We just find the difference between it and the total price of 14.70. And what would that be? 0.06. And what do we do in 0.06? That's right, we divide it by the difference in price between apples and oranges. So 0.06 divided by 0.03, which is 2. Now, what does this 2 represent? That's right, it is the number of oranges. So we know in this case that there are 10 apples and 2 oranges. Now, let's ask ourselves, are these quantities possible? Yes, very much so. Now, let's try and estimate even further up. So, what's the next greatest price? 1.24. And therefore, if it's 1.24, we would get the total price of 14.88. So, what do we do now? That's right, we take 14.8 minus the total price of 14.70 given in the question, and that is 0.18. And what do we do with that? That's right, we divide it by the difference in price between one apple and one orange, 0.03, to get 6. Now, what does this number 6 represent? Just like in the previous example, it represents the number of oranges. So here we have how many? 6 oranges and 6 apples. Now, is this satisfying the conditions of the question? No. Why? Because we need more apples than oranges. And so, do we need to estimate further up a further higher price? No. Why? Because then we would get even fewer apples and more oranges. We are getting further away from our correct answer. So, do we have here the price of each apple? Yes, it is 1.23. And so, how do we answer the question? How much did Malik pay for the apples in total? Well, we would take 1.23 times 10, which is 1230. And how do we express this answer? We have to express it in cents because that's what the question is asking. And how do we do that? Simply multiply this value by 100. So, the final answer is 1230 cents. Now that we've solved this question, let's go to our summary. Now, in this money word problem, what do we have? We have a problem with what information? With single value difference, the difference between one apple and one orange, total quantity and total price. Now, how did we solve this problem? What was the first step in our faster solution? That's right. First, we estimated and then we adjusted the value to find one that fits the condition of our question. Thank you for watching today. If you have any questions and would like to contact me, you can scan the QR code on the left. And if you would like to join our Primary 4 study group, you can scan the QR code on the right. Thank you for watching again. Happy studying and see you in the next video.